this is Samsa again from GamingOnLinux.com, and today I am about to talk to you about Convoy. So Convoy is it's kind of an old game at this point. Not really an old, but it's not particularly new. But I bought it on GOG recently, and I decided that because it hasn't been really reviewed by GOL, so I might as well, do some first impressions / review stuff. I haven't played it through, so you could really only consider this a first impressions video. But let's talk a bit about the game. So Convoy is very much like FTL and Mad Max. It's basically a combination of those two, very heavily. The game is very much inspired by FTL, and FTL is really the closest comparison to Convoy. It's a roguelite strategy game in which you have landed on a post-apocalyptic planet, and your objective is to repair your spaceship by finding various spare parts on the planet and then heading out. Naturally, these spare parts are spread out all over the planet, and you need to send a convoy to find them. The convoy consists of an MCV, a main command vehicle or something like that, and a couple of escort vehicles. And you basically travel on the planet, try to find the spare parts. You can also the game is very much like it's roguelite random stuff. So you encounter all kinds of random events, side quests, etc. And the map is very much open, and you can basically go anywhere. Of course, you have your sets of risks. So some events might actually be rather deadly. There are also random attacks by all of the three factions that inhabit the planet. There are raiders, privateers, and the Torvak. The raiders are your basic set of raiders. They like to cut up people and do all kinds of nasty stuff. Privateers are basically the same, but slightly more civilized. And the Torvak is basically, they are like hyper technology people. They just like technology a whole bunch, and they have very high tech equipment. But they all are essentially hostile towards you. There are some cases where you can actually deal with the Torvak without causing huge battles, but they often like to just shoot you up. The battles are, basically they are card chases. They are sort of Mad Max-esque battle scenes where you need to move your vehicles around. Your MCV doesn't actually move, it only stays in the same place, but you can move your escort vehicles around, and your various obstacles and your MCV actually cause some tactical problems, because they are essentially obstacles, and they occlude your vision and your capability to fire at your enemy. So you need to actually maneuver your escort vehicles around various obstacles and your MCV in order to be able to fire at your enemies. There's also the possibility to crash your opponents into these obstacles. There are sometimes bridges, etc., and you can ram them into these obstacles to kill them immediately. Of course, there's also the problem that you might actually run into these obstacles yourself, and your escort vehicles might get destroyed. Sometimes there are also mines that can cause problems. There are no insta-death obstacles for your MCV, because that would be unfair, but your MCV can still run into mines. So sometimes you might actually want to move your escort vehicles in front of the MCV to protect it from either enemy fire or mines. It's also possible to pause during battles, so you can plan your maneuvers without having to actually have the battle going on. So this is also something that was actually done by FTL, where you could basically pause during battles, give some commands, and then you can just continue. I personally didn't find it all that useful. I liked to keep it going in real time constantly because I think that made it more interesting. But it's definitely useful at times, especially when the enemy is firing like rockets, which you need to actually dodge a bit better. And well, that's basically it about the combat. Your cars can naturally be equipped with various kinds of weapons and also some passive abilities like shields, which are very useful. So there are even some like specialized equipment that you can for example protect your vehicles from ramming damage, because ramming enemies will cause damage to both of the vehicles, so it's not necessarily a good strategy to keep doing all the time. So there is a piece of equipment called the Aid, which it basically protects you from ramming damage, so you can ram as much as you want. Of course, you will still take damage from regular weaponry. Some of it is like post-apocalyptic stuff, but many of the things are actually like modern and slightly futuristic stuff. You have your laser turrets, your plasma turrets, etc. But you also have like regular old missiles, 60mm cannons, light machine guns, etc. There aren't all that many like Wasteland-esque weapons. The closest thing that I have seen so far is the chainsaws that you can actually equip on your vehicles to actually make... I suppose that just increases the damage you do by ramming. Your MCV also has some abilities, so you're not entirely reliant on your escorts. Mostly these MCV abilities are not really all that useful in direct combat. They are mostly used just to aid your escort vehicles. You can, for example, stun your enemies. That's the first ability you get with your first MCV. You can unlock more MCVs and more escort configurations in the future when you play the game. There are certain things. It's similar to FTL in that if you kill these certain enemies, there are like special enemies, you can by killing them unlock more configurations for your escorts and more MCV types, and naturally these different escort configurations come with their own weaponry, their own equipment, and MCVs, I suppose, they either give you more health or more like different kinds of abilities. I haven't unlocked any MCVs so far, but I have unlocked one escort configuration by completing a side quest, which was a pretty fun one. It involved a dragon, but I'm not going to spoil too much of that stuff. The map is very open, and in my opinion, if this game does something better than FTL, it's that it gives you sort of more freedom. FTL was kind of compact in that when the rebel fleet slowly moved in, you actually had to keep moving, and that didn't allow you to explore as much. In Convoy, you need to be on your toes, and these three factions, they actually expand over time. And when they expand, it becomes more likely for you to encounter them and encounter more dangerous enemies that have better equipment. So you do have some time constraints, but not really. There isn't like any imminent danger, so you get to explore a bit more. And it seems, of course I haven't played this as much as I hoped, but in any case, there seems to be more like side quest stuff. Because in my opinion, the Convoy world allows you to have more side quests than something like FTL. FTL also had its side quests, but it was mostly just you have the single main quest, which is to get to the opposite side of the galaxy, sort of. And that's basically it. And if you get some side quests, they usually involve just 2 events, and that's it. The planet is also littered with various camps where you can buy your equipment. You can also repair and buy fuel. Fuel is a limitation, so you cannot just go randomly everywhere. You will actually have to buy fuel every now and then. I actually ran out of fuel quite often, especially when I live streamed this game. I was actually running out of fuel constantly, which was kinda irritating. But when I played the game for the purposes of this video, I actually found out that I will die usually before I run out of fuel. The game is actually quite difficult, and you will have to plan quite carefully what you are going to do. Going too far out will mean that you will likely get swarmed by enemies, and especially if you approach the core areas of these three factions where the enemy opposition is strongest. And sometimes the quests, especially the main quest, which takes you around the place, you have multiple spare parts that you need to find, and some of the spare parts are actually somewhat hidden in the some sort of central or core territories of these different factions. So there is definitely, sometimes you actually need to take risks, but if you can avoid it, you should. And these like random events that you will find around the map, these are called signals, and when you go to them, they usually either involve combat or you need to actually make some choices. Sometimes these choices are something like, will you give some of your resources to these people and maybe possibly get a reward? I have seen many of these events multiple times, and it seems that the outcomes are randomized, so answering the same way to a certain event might not have the same outcome happen. So it's random chance, a big part of it. There is sort of like, sometimes your choices can also be like, you can be a serious douchebag, and you can just, for example, when you encounter these people that want a bit of fuel to just, you know, get to their new settlement, you can just choose to just kill them if you want to. I mean, if you feel that way, you could just kill them, and I assume you would get their resources if they have any. As far as I know, there aren't any repercussions, so if you decide to be just a complete annoyance and an evil person, you can just do that. Apparently the factions don't really care, and it doesn't seem to change much, so you can just be whoever you want. Of course, if you want to roleplay a bit, you might want to avoid those options, but sometimes being evil might just be the easiest option. And sometimes you might just want to completely ignore the random events if you want to, for example, go directly somewhere. Overall, I like Convoy. Convoy is a nice game, and it's especially for those people who liked FTL. I imagine you will probably like Convoy a lot. But in my opinion, the game could have maybe they could have like done more stuff on their own, because so far, I mean, being like FTL isn't especially bad, but in many ways when I played this game, I felt like, oh, I have seen this already. I have played this in FTL. It's very close to FTL. That's just what I'm saying. But apart from that, I haven't really had any problems. I had some problems with the GOG version of the game initially because they apparently had some weird bugs in the release, but those have been fixed and the game actually works really well now. So overall, I haven't really had any troubles with the game. I have enjoyed my time, and I will keep enjoying the game because there is just so much to do, and so you probably won't be playing through this game in a while, because the game, once again, like I said, it's roguelite, so your deaths are permanent. And there is a lot of stuff to unlock. If you want to find all of the MCVs and escort configurations, it will definitely take some time for you to find all the side quests and enemies to kill. Overall, I would give Convoy a recommendation. It's a nice game. The art style is just fine. The game works on basically anything. I have tested it on my laptop with Intel HD Graphics 3000, and I have played it on Novu or Nuvo, I get that wrong every single time, on my machine with the lowest possible clock rate, and it worked there just fine without any problems. So I imagine it will probably work on basically anything you throw at it. But yeah, so that has been Convoy, and we will see in future videos and live streams.